All right. Thank you. Yeah. We're going to start a little bit early so that we can be on the troll. Just want to test our mic if we are audible. Can you hear what we are saying? Oh, can you hear what we are saying here? It's perfect. It's good. All right. No, that's good. Okay. We just want to go a little bit here and there. And we'll start by introducing Marfado Family Network, what we are doing, what we do, and what we hope to achieve. Marfado Family Network basically is here for melanin-dominant human beings. Melanin-dominant human beings, we mean people that you would call Negro or Black or African. And our task is that we want to fight for our cultural revival, as well as removing the borders, continental borders, as well as national borders, because those are not ours. In terms of spirituality, we say you must revere your ancestors. You must also know the good and righteous ancestors against the other ancestors that have not been righteous or that have not made it into the ancestral world, ancestral realm. And last but not least, we also insist that you must know the revered gods, good gods, because they are good gods that we must all acknowledge. And then we have the fundamental issue of the real creator versus other gods. The real creator, we say, no human being on earth, no human being has ever walked on the earth, no human being anywhere in future, even if you combine all the human beings together, can be able to describe the unknowable real creator. He's beyond the quantum force field, he's beyond the chasm, he's beyond the waters of Nyunyu. All the images of the gods that we see, these are particular specific gods or spiritual principles or basic pillars of what our ancestors identified as force fields that affect the reality in this world where we live. I apologize, my title is Hamanager Topi Priest Rabbi L.M. Dumzulu Kunikeni Mjaganja, a member of Marfado Family Network, an international organization found in almost every part of the continent. We teach ancestral reverence, we teach also divine worship, and we teach that the real creator is beyond our knowledge. We cannot sin against him, we cannot sin against her, we cannot sin against it. We cannot also worship that. It's a sheer waste of time. Anything that is a name, that's a deity. It's not the real creator. If you know the creator as uNkulunkulu Velingane, Ukamata, those are deities. That's why the people that come from Botswana who do not say Kamata, they would say Modimo. And those that come from Zimbabwe will say Msik or Mari. So we cannot have a creator who is understood differently by different people, because the real creator is beyond language, is beyond humans, is beyond races. Today we want to discuss a topic that is prominent in these days in Zimbabwe. There is a prophet, so-called prophet, because I don't believe there are any prophets at all. There's a prophet in Zimbabwe known as Emmanuel Makandiwa, who runs a very large Pentecostal church. He last week threw a challenge and said that he's going to put something in his pocket, and he invited all the other prophets, the seers, like Ruben Angels and all those Natabos Tole, Bonge Laboma Yuyu Move, everybody was invited. Ukuthi babuye bazotshengisa ukuthi kulani phakathi esikhwameni sendoda le, what is in the pocket, chichiri muhomwe yemchindawe anozi yemprofita. One thing that I want to highlight is that these prophets just mushroomed after slavery. Before colonization and slavery, we did not have such individuals who wear suits, wear nice shoes, and they speak very eloquently and teach about another God who died for their sins, or whom they say died for our sins. So in this post, I'm going to deal with that. But the way I'm going to deal with it is very, very technical. You will never find the way I deal with it anywhere else. We are going to deal with it in a manner and in a way that will leave you, the viewer, the listener, clear with what you can use, the tools you can use to decipher and identify these so-called prophets. So the title actually is the unforgiving criteria for prophetic legitimacy. So we are saying these prophets need legitimacy, and a genuine prophet who claims divine authority must transcend all human systems of validation. So what we are saying here, we are saying if anyone claims to be a prophet, his claim should not be contested by anybody else, because the confirmation of that person who is saying he's a prophet must come from the source that gives him that power. And if that source that gives him that power is the creator who created me and you and everybody else, the confirmation must be so natural, so clear, just like the way we breathe air. We don't debate about that, or sunshine. We don't argue about sunshine. We just receive sunshine, all of us, with no condition. So somebody who comes and starts to tell us that sunshine is good for us, we don't argue with him. We polish and refine his ideas and say maybe to other people who are melanin recessive, sunlight might cause A, B, C, D, but we all agree that it is necessary. So if such a natural process or a natural phenomenon can be confirmed by every human being who walks on the earth, what more of the creator of all? Why would we have doubts that Allah is not the creator and Muhammad is not the prophet? And I stand foursquare and say he's a false prophet, and even Jesus, if he lived, was a false prophet, because I have that free will in me to say that. But if the real creator brings a prophet or a prophetess to the earth, there should never be one human being anywhere, whether intelligent, whether with IQ 210 or dumb and daft. Everybody should hear that message and say, oh, something is unique with that message. So that's why we are saying a genuine prophet or prophetess who claims divine authority must transcend all human systems of validation. First, very few ever ask this question: which God has sent this prophet or prophetess? So once you ask that question, which God, then what it means is we are acknowledging that there are so many gods, because the word God means deity. So when we say, okay, the God of so and so, or Yahweh, whom we know from evidence that has come across ages, that Yahweh was a Canaanite deity, small tribal deity, who rose to prominence as he was adopted by Semitic tribes 1,250 years ago or so, and is a copy of monotheistic tendencies that were promoted by the African king Tutankhamun and Akhenaton. These questions will cause us then to know that these deities have messengers or so-called prophets. So when we say history reveals a glaring paradox, because we know that ancient priest astronomers, these were melanin dominant priest astronomers, or black people, or Africanized people, or Negroid. In Hamid, in Sumeria, in Mohenjo-Daro, in the Maya in America, in Europe and many other places, these priest astronomers delivered tangible advancement that is fueling our civilization today. Mathematics, medicine, astronomy, engineering, while these modern prophets produce only abstract and moral platitudes and a fear mongering and a lot of boasting and a very, very, very weak record of prophecies fulfilled. Think about that. consider that very, very seriously, because at the end of the day, if you do not understand that, then your fundamentals, when you look at these prophets, will not give you a clear and a crystal clear identifying signs that there must be something wrong here. So what we're saying essentially is that African priest astronomers who mapped the skies, who gave us mathematics, medicine, the fundamentals of which others have come and built on top, did not claim and make boastful claims like what we see today of these modern prophets. These modern prophets, they say they speak to God, but not even one of them has a patent to his name. Not even one of them has invented something that benefits mankind. If you find an invention that was done by these men of God who say, I spoke to God and he gave me this vision, that's why I made this to help people, let us know. Send us an email at lmtumizulu@marifado.com with proof of that. There is none, nobody. So this prophetic cup clash that's happening in Chitungwiza, Zimbabwe, and Harare, perhaps today, is about someone identifying something in the Prophet Makandiwa's pocket. Here are the scenarios. If Prophet Makandia wants to promote one of his own within Christianity, and that will dupe and deceive millions of people, he will have one of his friends and tell his friend that I have got such a thing in my pocket. And his friend will come and will be given the opportunity to identify it. And then he will get that $1 million. And on top of that, Christianity will get more people following it. We can't trust the process because we have already given a very strong foundation to reject prophetic powers. There are no prophets. There have never been any prophets, but messengers of other gods like Muhammad, like Jesus, like bishops and so forth, they are there. We can't deny that. But these are deities with names. Any god with a name is a deity on which you can actually commit idolatry. So let's say this cup clash is actually a lower level that we cannot really raise up even to Old Testament prophets, if we might say. Those that parted the seas, those that flew into heaven in a chariot of fire, this kind of gimmick, if I might say, will satisfy and deceive those that are already asleep. So find something in a pocket that can be done, but it is not solving a major national or worldwide challenge. That's my argument. Why not invent something else? Why this time on this invention? There is a Zimbabwean Chikumbutso who invented a car that doesn't use anything, that uses what he terms microsonic energy. I've heard him say in an old video that he prays to Jesus and he got these visions. And here is my problem. There are people today on the internet, scholars, doctors in physics, that say it's possible, that can prove that microsonic energy can be created. So what he has done the Bill Gates way. The Bill Gates way is to get someone's ideas and combine them and come and produce a product like MS-DOS that gave us Windows. So we can't really praise that. It's still a car with wheels. Why invent something similar with what Henry Ford, what Mercedes-Benz, what Toyota did? Why not come up with a concept completely unknowable, foreign, and out of this world, out of the blue? Because you are dealing with God, with the creator of everything. So why multiply or why improve on what is already there? If Chikumbutso is an inventor of not. I'm not saying anything to downplay his achievement. It's marvelous. It's out of this world. I am into automotive machines and the cars and engines and so forth, and I respect what he has done. But I'm dealing here with the prophetic powers. If somebody is connected to the real creator who created the universe, and they cannot come up with a new thing that shocks everybody, well, you are not yet there. You and me are same, you are using your brains. But what is a prophet? Or what is a prophetess? We are told that a prophet or a prophetess is a figure who is believed to act as an intermediary between the divine and humanity, also conveying a message and also taking our message to the divine. The divine, in this case, they call him or her God, or it God, or Allah, or the creator. And therefore, there are people that have a direct connection, which they can talk to the real creator, right? And yet they have not invented even a tablet. They have not cured even an illness. If these people had these powers during COVID, they would have wiped COVID away. They would go to hospitals and clean all the hospitals. There would be not even one made men running in our streets. They would go clear the streets because they would have power. But it's not like that. So these revelations from the deity, which they bring to humanity, are religious, spiritual, traditional, and they're recognized by others as really divine. But here's the problem. If someone has the Holy Spirit, and on top of the Holy Spirit, his gift is in prophecy, in the prophesying, and then he reads the Bible, that person has no Holy Spirit. If he has the Holy Spirit, what kind of Holy Spirit is that? That causes him to go to a book that came after Christianity was created. If your prophet reads a book, either the Quran, the Gita, the Bible, the Torah, he's not a prophet, he's a scholar, smart enough to deceive the millions of people and claim that he's a prophet. Because if he is indeed a prophet, and he has the spirit of prophecy, and he has the spirit of his God, or this God or deity, Yahweh, Elohim, El Shaddai, Allah, if he has that spirit, then the Bible, every word of the Bible is in his body, in his brain. He can narrate verses and explain them, not read them and explain them like a theologian or like somebody who has gone to school to study that. So the individual often imagine religious or spiritual traditions and are recognized for their perceived ability to foresee future events, interpret divine will, or call people to moral or ethical reforms. Well, the examples we've already given: Moses in Judaism, Muhammad in Islam, Deborah, the Hebrew Bible, and Pythia in ancient Greek oracles. But when you come to us, melanin dominant human beings, the original and the first people on earth, we didn't have such people. We had our gods walking on the earth. And on top of that, we had priest teachers and priest astronomers who were smart, who were intelligent, who used their brains, and who proved by inventing stuff that did not exist at their time, like building of the pyramid. Imagine people witnessing stones being put together, and after a couple of months or a couple of years, they see the pyramid standing with its polished end and the golden cap. Imagine the chariot, imagine the dagger, imagine this wheel. These were inventors. Imagine mathematics. Imagine the explanation of the eclipse, that the moon and the phases of the moon and the seasons. These were really connected to the divine at a certain level. I don't want to say prophetic, but I want to say they were connected. So we have put three foundational questions, three profound questions. If you've got a pen and paper, I want to give you time to craft these questions down. I'm going to give these questions. I want you to write these questions. I'm pleading with you to write these questions down because we want to conclude by understanding that there are no prophets. That's these people are not prophets. And the title is we are not going to be messy to have mercy on anyone who is claiming to be a prophet. We are going to ask hard questions, and we are going to give them hard tests so that their legitimacy can be verified, and everybody can have this test, standard test they can use to measure a person who claims to be a prophet. So I've said the identifying ability to identify what is in my pocket and what is under my shoes or my phone number is not proof, because you are still using the systems around, the systems that were created. The trouser was invented, the thing in your pocket probably was invented. And so for me, that's not a prophet, that's a seer, that's a person who has the ability to guess, or he has been tipped, or at best has a spirit of a deity. Because remember what we said in the introduction, the deities we speak of, whether they're evil deities or good deities, have a spirit they put into their followers. That's why millions and millions of people follow these individuals, and they worship the gods they are taught by these individuals without their critical analysis of these gods. Worse off, if you are a melanin dominant person, you must ask a question: why am I worshiping the God who came with the enslavers and colonizers? So I said, if you've got a pen and a paper and a piece of paper, and if your memory is good, I've got 3 questions that I want to think about and I want you to consider. There is the paradox of free will versus divine foreknowledge. The paradox of free will versus divine foreknowledge. That's a paradox. It's a clash of ideas. It's a contradiction of ideas. If a prophet or prophets or prophetess can accurately foresee future events, does this imply a predetermined universe where human choices are illusory? How can free will coexist with a deity's or prophet's infallible knowledge of the future? So you go to these prophets, and then they tell you that lina baba ngiyalibona lizafa kusasa, imi baba ndikubona mchifa mangwana, you are going to die tomorrow, you men. He has seen that, and then he comes with a solution and say, oh, I need you to do A, B, C, D. So he's bending that divine will. Now my question is, why doesn't God tell you? Why doesn't the Creator tell me directly? What is so important with this man that he goes to tell this man? In any case, once that scenario is built up, there is what is called self-fulfilled prophecies. Self-fulfilled prophecies is when your subconscious mind now puts out information or is prompted through a process called auto-suggestion. Auto-suggestion means someone suggests to you an idea, and then you make that idea as yours subliminally. And then you start to say, okay, I might die tomorrow. So you ask, what do I do? Then they give you the solution. That's the question we are asking. Why does the Creator not come to me directly? By instinct, by dreams, or by a whisper in my ear? Why do he need a prophet to come and tell me? Because that's the paradox. So if a prophet predicts a war, does the prediction itself influence or resuscitate and necessitate the occurrence of that war? That's self-fulfilled prophecy. So once you hear it, start to imagine it, you build and you give it energy. And when you give it energy, the possibility of it occurring rises. If you don't hear about it, nothing happens. Very, very solid question. Free will versus divine prediction. Then we've got this one, which is technical, the epistemological crisis of authenticity. Now, how can humanity objectively verify a prophet's divine authority? Can you do that? This is the purpose of this discussion. How can you verify objectively? I'm not saying subjectively. This is not a very easy question if you think it in terms of epistemological thought and thinking. I'm saying, how can you objectively verify a prophet's divine authority? In other words, the way you verify that prophet's authority, you can give it to somebody, and then they can use that same and get a correct result. That's why I say today we are technical. Today we are going deeper, and we are encouraging ourselves to think. But if you twist this question around a little bit, it becomes a very easy question to answer. And the question would be changed in this way: how can you subjectively identify a prophet's divine authority? This is where everybody now comes in. Everybody now comes in. The first one, nobody comes in because it's a very difficult question. How can you objectively verify a prophet's divine authority? I want to take the Prophet Muhammad. How can you objectively verify his authority? You can't. Because if you come to me and tell me that he was a prophet, I'll point to slavery, that Islam enslaved us first, and for 1,497 years, it is continuously enslaved us and called as kafir. And now they occupy the whole of Northeast Africa, which they were given by the French, the British, and the Americans, and they renamed it Middle East. So you cannot come to me objectively with a proof. You can come with the Quran, you can come with the Kaaba, you can come with anything, but I will still refuse because of what? Of subjectivity. I'm looking at him through the lenses of what Islam has done to me. Therefore, if he is a prophet, the question is, how is he a prophet? Which God sent him? Is it the same God of my ancestors or something else? So you see, this is a difficult problem and proposition. In any case, the contradictory nature of the truths these prophets purport to have brought onto the earth is shocking. Some of their messages are often ambiguous, symbolic, or open to interpretation and interpretation. Miracles or signs attributed to prophets are indistinguishable from charlatanism or psychological phenomena. That's how we give an example of inventing something. Then, why is there prophetic failure? This one is for Christians. You know, Jonah was sent to Nineveh. He was swallowed by a fish, according to the text. But he said, no, I don't want to go and preach because those people in Nineveh, Iraq, they might repent and you forgive them. But we know that in the Bible, we are taught that God is not a man that he could lie. We are also taught in Malachi that God does not change. Behold, you children of Israel are not consumed. But here we are being taught through the question of the problem of prophetic failure that this God can change. And he did change. Many places gives a prophecy and he changes. So in that scenario, whether someone is able to predict the results of Manchester United versus Real Madrid and come up with the correct format, correct result, we really are not worried. There was someone in Zim who would go and put a bet and he will always win, and they had to put a ban on him from putting any bets. So if a prophet or prophets are divinely inspired, why do their messages frequently fail to prevent suffering or unite humanity or align with modern ethical standards? We want peace. And the prophets would have to rely on politicians to bring peace instead of going to the politicians and telling them, I'm going to bring peace whether you like it or not on earth. They can't do that. So the problem of prophetic failure is rampant and is very, very clear. So we are looking at the test anyone can use to test these people that claim that they are prophets. So there are prophetic warnings in ancient texts, and this did not avert atrocities like genocide and slavery. This is where we come to Deuteronomy 28 and Leviticus chapter 26, famous with the Hebrew Israelite. These prophecies were uttered by a prophet called Moses and written down. So I say, if you do A, B, C, D, you become successful, you become a big nation. And if you don't do ABCD, you shall go lower than even the invader in your land. That is a problem. Because the prophet who wrote Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and then Deuteronomy did not tell the Israelites that they will have problems of slavery from another religion called Islam. When I used to teach this chapter, and when I used to belt it out at Foundation College in Bulawayo, in Zimbabwe, and on television and everywhere, and I read Deuteronomy 28 from verse 1 to 15, where the promises of greatness came, given, and then we started to read from verse 16 to maybe verse 32 or 62, I'm not sure now, where it is clear that if you do this, you have this. If you do, and you look at African nations, it becomes very, very close. But the questions that I failed to ask at that time was, what about Islam? Islam took us into slavery. It's not even written there. You can't even interpret it that way. You may, if you read returning in ships to Egypt, but you can't return in ships from Israel. You can't return to Egypt in ships from Israel. So if you think about it, these standards and this failure to avert atrocities and genocide and slavery and colonization, though written down, do not clearly tell us that this prophet was indeed. In any case, Yahweh is not an African god. It's a Canaanite god, yes, but it's a deity. A deity is something I can cave and something that I can worship to, and I can describe that deity. So these questions are not easy to answer because they grapple with metaphysical contradictions, epistemic limitations, and ethical dilemmas inherent in reconciling divine communication and human experience, as well as the lack of definitive answers from the prophet. So we go back to square one. In theology, in philosophy, and in science, in domains where empirical proof and the consensus are exclusive, objectivity becomes the standard to test anything. That's why they call it peer review. That's what we want to encourage Smart Father Family Network. If I say something, don't believe it. Don't even give it 1%. Verify it, prove it, test it, experiment with it. That is the reason why all our horizitors, all our executives in Marfado do not teach about the real creator, how he looks like, what he has done. You can read the book of Coming Forth by Day, Partema Hore. They explain the deities there, the good, the primordial deities. But it's a primordial deities that came out of the waters of Nyunyu. I would be very, very close, personally, to embrace the waters of Nyunyu and love them like a Christian loves Jesus. At that level, someone who does that, I will respect them and love them because the waters of Nyunyu contains almost the totality of our reality, perception, understanding, consciousness when we think of the real creator. But with the condition that we know there's a chasm. So these prophets that are coming and claiming to speak on behalf of God, nobody has asked them when they are standing there and preaching, which God? Because Yahweh is one of them. Elohim is a group of these gods. El Shaddai is another one. El Shaddai is the God of boobs. Not only on the breast, everywhere. Fertility. El Elyon is the God of the mountains. That's why some go to the mountains like Mapostori and Masayon, go to the mountain to pray. There's also God of war. So which God is giving this prophet the power to prophesy? Moses asked that question. He was brilliant. Why? Because he came from Hamit. And in Hamit, he knew that there are many gods. So he was asking, who are you? Maybe it's Ra, maybe it's Ra'atu, maybe it's Amen, maybe it's Ausari, maybe it's Horesu, maybe it's Isisu, maybe it's Nephites, maybe it's Merizega, maybe it's Wamtish, maybe it's Kamto. Who are you? So which God does Makandiwa use to prophesy? Is it the same God who inspire another man to and identify what is in the pocket? Think about that. Think about, we used to have, me and my friends, some years back, we used to have times when we talked about these matters of these prophets and of God in general. And I remember an example that was given that when during the World Cup and the teams are playing, each team prays to God. So they kneel down and let's say Brazil. Is my favorite team anyway, soccer. When it comes to soccer, Brazil kneels, they pray to God. They do the cross, and they are playing the French national team. They also pray, they are Catholics, dominated by Catholics. The Brazilian also dominated by Catholics, and they pray to the same God. And the one team wants to win. So what does God do? Why does he favor? Of course, we know that the biblical God says, Esau I hated, Jacob I loved. So it's easy for him to love something and to hate something anyway, because he's a deity. So testing the prophets now, we want ironclad proof that they are not prophets. That's our hypothesis. Ironclad proof that these are not prophets. So we are using the unforgiving measures for any prophet's legitimacy. We are not going to say this and that. It's unforgiving measure. This talk that I'm doing today, if you've got a pen and paper, please just write this stuff and do a peer review, so that we learn together, and I can also look into the stuff that I'm discussing here. So there are three pillars to this test for legitimacy of any prophets. Anyone claiming to be a prophet, there are plenty of them. One, has this prophet performed an unnamable miracle? Has this prophetess performed an unnamable miracle? That's the first question. Number two, universal replicability of that unnamable miracle by anyone. Universal replicability of that miracle, unnamable miracle by anyone. And then number three, cross-species consensus. Now, this cross-species consensus is very difficult. Not even one prophet can do that, because cross-species consensus arises when even a goat, even a cow, even a monkey, even a baboon, even a shark, even a snake, even a hawk will consent to that miracle. I'll give an example here so that we clear our heads and we have an image of what we are using as the unforgiving test for anybody who claims to be a prophet. So we have removed what Makandiwa is doing of identifying what is in a pocket, because it's abracadabra. It's not a miracle. It doesn't benefit any human being, right? So who benefits? That's the question. And why is it being done? To prove what? Okay, we leave that aside. We come back to these three fundamentals: the unnamable miracle test, universal applicability, cross-species consensus. So if you are to leave my talk, this committee Hebrew ethics YouTube talk today, live to talk today, you have to have these three. I'm going to emphasize these three. In other words, it is the universal replicability. Can it be repeated anywhere without conditions? All right. In other words, we don't want faith. We don't want someone to say, you need to have faith. No. Once you have that condition, it's no longer a miracle. And the one who is bringing that miracle is not prophet, is a messenger of a deity. That species consensus. So a dog, a cat could confirm that, that's unique. And then you take the cat away, you hide it somewhere, and the goat comes, says that's unique. I'll give the example of cross-species consensus shortly. Then the act must never have a name. Now it is brand new in the universe. Not under the sun, as the Bible says, but in the universe. So let me come to cross-species consensus, which is used by our traditions. Our ancestors uses it, and it is famous. What happens is that when someone dies in our culture, in our tradition, is Bantus, specifically in Southern Africa. I know in other parts of the earth this happens. So this cross-species consensus is not something that is easy to replicate. And it is not an unnamable miracle test. So it is a nameable miracle test. So it is not prophetic. This is cross-species consensus that we do in our tradition. But there are two conditions of the three primary conditions. Two of them can be met. Only one can't be met. Now, let me go, because we are dealing with a very technical subject. I am going technical for deliberate reasons. We want to cut off the roots of these people that pretend to be prophets. So the title of my talk is The Unforgiving Measure for Any Prophet's Legitimacy. We are not sparing any brand species here. We are just hammering them. So I said there are three primary foundations or fundamentals that any of his or her miracle must satisfy. One, it must never have a name. So when you come to us and say, oh, he heals the blind, you have already named it. It's no longer a miracle. He is not a prophet. And you come and say, someone else is his spiritual father, he's not his spiritual son, he has done the same miracle, has repeated it. Yes, it's possible, because he can give his spirit to that one. And then consensus by every species. If it's done, oh, it would be something we say, oh, yeah, it has been done. But it has failed because the name has been given. So I want to give an example quickly, because our session here is long, is big, and I know many of us will be leaving, but I want to give you these three. Please write them down, think about them, go do your research, and think about them. You can research anywhere where you want, but you will never find them as named as this, because this is the first time that they are given as this. Right? So don't Google or go to any other Bling or other source. You will never find them. But the principles that I'm going to narrate, you can then go and use them. It's very straightforward, simple. I'm going to give an example shortly. But first, these are the three primary tests that anyone who is a prophet must be able to satisfy without any doubt. Number one, the unnamable miracle test. He must do a miracle that is no name. Number two, universal replicability. This miracle that he has done must be repeated by someone somewhere without conditions, because cross-species consensus, anyone, anything that is sentient, a tree, a rock, anything that, because if you have been following Marf Family Network, you know we believe in animism, that everything is an energizing spirit or a vibration. So anything other than a car or a watch, those, they don't have that. They need an extra energy, power to see that. So we are speaking of something natural. Okay. Now, when I'm going to give the examples, but of the example that I'm giving, one example that I'm giving, it will satisfy two, not the three. Unnamable miracle test, universal replicability, and a cross species. The one that I'm going to give, it has universal replicability and a cross species consensus, but it cannot, it's nameable. So umbuiso, someone dies, and after a period, of mourning. Our tradition is that they brew a beer, traditional beer. They don't use maize, they don't use all this, they use natural African small grains, rukweza, rio, munga, and all those, or pork, or small little grains, and they use that. They brew their beer. And once they start to brew this beer, they observe how it is going. And this beer takes 7 days. And on the 60th day, they test. And on the 50th day, it starts to smell, to ferment, and the whole home or house starts, you feel, there's strong beer being brewed here. And then the following day, on the 60th day, they test it, and they say, oh, it's coming good. It's coming good. It's good. It's good. It's good. And then by the and they sift it and they put the dregs away, and they take the actual beer, put it in the round pots, clay pots, and one of the clay pots is an opening, and then they do the ceremony of bringing back the dead. They are dead, who they want to make an ancestor and divinize. And they do all the protocols in the morning. They do A, B, C, D in the morning, and then they go to his grave, they talk to him, and so forth. Meanwhile, the one calabash with his beer dedicated to him is taken away and is hidden somewhere. And in their goat pen, they have a number of goats. Then they open the goat pen. And when they open the goat pen, they all go and sit somewhere where they observe the goats. And the goats will come out of the goat pen, and all the other goats will walk somewhere away. And the one goat, one, will walk to where the people are seated who are doing the ceremony. And when it gets there, it will look around and it will walk straight to where that calabash dedicated to the one who is being brought home was hidden. If you hid it on top of Ingalan, if you hid it on top of Chitara, it will go there and it will tell you it's there. Then they take that beer and they go to drink that beer and they do other stuff with it. And then they know that the ancestor has come back. So, this example, cross species consensus. So, it's no longer a human being who is confirming the arrival or the return of the gone ancestor. It's an animal. Most of the time, it's a goat, not a sheep, a goat. Sometimes it's a cow or cattle from the cattle, not a donkey, not a pig, but sometimes it's an animal. The goat is one of the most favorable one that has done these rituals. I have witnessed this. And therefore, the miracle there is identified. So, the message for this ceremony came from a prophet. We don't know this prophet, but we know that he or she who brought this type of ritual satisfied universal replicability as well as cross-species consensus. Unfortunately, it's nameable. So it does not mean that this ceremony we perform came from the unknowable real creator. Nada, no, I sigo, I see so. All right, so I've cleared that. So if a true prophet exists, their authority must transcend all human systems of validation. That's why it is unnameable. To separate the divine from delusion, fraud, or coincidence, they must fulfill these 3 irrefutable conditions. I'm going to repeat them because I want these conditions to become the primary basis of our thinking. So this prophet of yours, or prophetess of yours, or Inganga, or Isangoma, or Ishaman, or healer, or wise man, or intelligent person must perform an unnameable miracle, must also give that power to individuals to perform that same unnamable miracle. Unfortunately, if it is performed once, it's already nameable. Therefore, it can't. That's our null hypothesis. That's our null hypothesis. So this is a true test. It passes all the logical gates and all the laws of probability. It passes them. If you didn't get that, repeat this video again. It passes that test. Brand new something that has no name, but has universal applicability, replicability by somebody, and a cross-species consensus. But once this is done, it's done. So you can invent only once. So it's a wheel. So what does that null hypothesis conclusion mean? It therefore means that every human being has the potential to be a prophet or a prophetess better than these that do abracadabra. And the basis of you to become a true prophet is by knowing the unknowable real creator. I've done enough there. I'll proceed. If you have any questions, please throw them in. I'm ready. So let's now expand on these attributes or conditions that you can now go and use as a standard to identify, okay, that's a prophet. Nah, that's a fake one. By this test, all of them fail. You can see that it's very clear that all of them fail, from William Jonah Branham, Joan Maranke, Kim Bangwist, or Oral Roberts. Anybody, name them, they will fail. Herbert W. Armstrong, they will fail. Anyone who claims to be a prophet fails these three tests, utterly fails. And they might not be able to do even one. Unlike our tradition, that does two. And the third one cannot be done. Ambia Roots, they ask the question there, how can we know the unknowable real creator? We can't, because it's subjectivity. We are created in a way that we cannot know that which is unknowable. But instinctively, we know there is some power there. That's why initially I gave example of someone who worships the waters of Nyunyu. That one is worshiping at a very high level, very highest level, because the waters of Nyunyu is the sum total of all the gods. And it is also the one that is pushing on the Chazim. So these three tests or conditions for prophethood, or for someone who is a prophetess, our tradition means two, and they fails the other one because it says a name. So once you name the miracle that the prophet has done, it's no longer proof that he's a prophet. It's proof that he's replicating something that has been done before. That's why I say abracadabra. So the unnamable miracle test means that the person or the individual who is thought to be prophet must perform a never before seen category defying act. A never before seen category defying act that shatters all known laws of physics, of biology, of logic. For example, this person who is said is a prophet must instantaneously or instantly or then there transmute lead into a living organism without energy input. Nobody can do that. Even evolution has not done that. Life is from life. So if someone can take lead or a gold or an iron ore and transmute it and transfer it into a living organism, and that has never been done, then that person has done something. But there's also what is called sleight of hand and the tricks of magicians. Therefore, we go to the next stage, universal replicability. Can he teach somebody to do the same? Not someone he knows or somebody and bring somebody, not abracadabra, where they take a watch from your bottom or what, no. And then if that is done, then they can bring a goat or a cow or something, and that cow must be able to replicate that. So you see, it cannot pass. So there's no existing language or concept that describes what this prophet would do. And it leaves a permanent global mark. Let's go to universal applicability. This, whatever this prophet has done, must be repeated by any human, regardless of their intellect, faith, or culture. A child or a skeptic and a chimpanzee must replicate it identically using only the prophet's instructions. No modifications, no special conditions, no prayer, no purity, no faith is allowed. It must just do it. Now, this is where it is very important, because now it makes you wonder. Steve Jobs, Henry Ford, Wright brothers invented smartphone, a car, Henry T. Ford, and also an aeroplane. Do you need faith to use a smartphone? No. No. Here's the question. Can Steve Jobs or the Wright brothers transfer their knowledge of making their stuff to somebody and somebody can do it? Yes, they can. And yet, it's no longer a miracle. Why? Because we've named it. It's an aeroplane. So it comes out of the miracle. So the one is gone. Now, number two, can they ask a God to replicate it? Can they teach a God to watch? No. So it's not a miracle. It doesn't come from the divine. It comes from a realm where you, me, everybody can access. So it does not meet even one condition of the three: universal replicability, cross-species consensus, and an unnamable miracle. Theirs is nameable. What is it? It's an aeroplane. What does it do? It flies. I mean, we need something that defies all these laws of physics and mathematics. So a plane or an aeroplane flies because it meets the laws of physics and aerodynamics. Then you got your rotor, got a turbo charger type of engine or Rolls-Royce engine, and it has some stuff that it does, and maybe it is obviously not maybe, it is a multi-stage turbine rotor inside it, and fuel and all that stuff. It's not a miracle. It fulfills the laws of physics and aerodynamics. Okay, so when it comes to cross-species consensus, we want to quickly go through it. All sentient beings, humans, dolphins, anything, must independently recognize the act as transcendent. Right? All sentient beings, in other words, every human being, whether that human being is a Muslim, whether he's a Jew, whether he hates Hindus or what, must be able to recognize that, no, this is a miracle. Take a cell phone, for example, and the smartphone. It's a miracle. A Muslim can use it. They don't need to say Allah or to pray to Muhammad. They can simply buy it and use it. So universal application is there, but now it has been named. It's no longer an unnamable act. Yes, we go to the next one to try to look and analyze this so that we can judge this person. I'm not saying Steve Jobs, whom I'm giving as an example, the late Steve Jobs is a prophet. No, I'm looking at it as in terms of a miracle. And perhaps his invention came from beyond the gods. Right? So, no coercion. A bonobo or an octopus must freely engage with the miracle and mimic it and respond to it. Right? That's where we are looking at charisma. That's where we are looking at mesmerization. The word mesmer, the guy known mesmer, was used animal energy to perform psychotherapy on people. So this is why prophecy alone fails. Even if someone predicts events with 100% accuracy, it proves nothing about divine authority. Modern tools can explain this. Data mining, Billions of humans make predictions. Some will win by chance, e.g., stock gambles, and the other will make a good guesses. So, if you have got a spirit from the unknowable real creator, you can put lotto and win every time. And you can also know other stuff. Vagueness, many prophecies often use ambiguous language, e.g., a great conflict will arise, retrofitted to the events. Now, look at this. I've seen a lot of these prophets. Look at the way they prosecute their work. So they have somebody, they say, I know there's someone here who is called Alice. And then Alice stand and Alice stand up. And we are saying we are barring the scenario where they make that act before the session and they know Alice from there and say, okay, Alice, I will give you $1,000. I'm going to do this. We are removing that. We are saying, no, these people are authentically filled with the spirit of their God, their deity. And they say, Alice, there's somebody called William. And I say, yeah, it's my father. It's my... I say, oh, yeah, okay. And he walks around and he starts to narrate this. And when you observe that, you look at that, what he's doing cold counting, he's good cold investigation, he's doing promptings, he's leading, he's making generalities. It reminds me of the story of Jesus when he complained that somebody took hold of his garment and he felt his power coming out. He's God. And there was a woman there who had been bleeding and having monthly periods for 12 years or so. And he just held these garments and was healed. And he said, my power oozed out. I mean, gentlemen, these are deities. These not the real creator. So the prophets use psychology. Most of them use confusing intuition, and also most of them have never healed mental illnesses, have never communicated with the spirits to the proof of all of us. And he's communicated with the spirit, sure. So the text that we have alluded to are very, very clear, very hard. So we want to go back to our initial introduction where we said there is a clash today of prophets in Zimbabwe. One prophet known as Emmanuel Makandiwa challenged them and said, this next Sunday, I'm going to put something in my pocket, and if you come and identify what is in my pocket, I'll give you $1 million. You are either a prophet, Nganga, or whatever, Sango, Mashaman, come. And during the week, they were giving the procedure, how you come and identify it. It is assumed also that he once did the same thing with a woman in Mbare who was doing miracles. And after that woman is gone, and they say want to raise money to build a house, and what that woman is no longer doing that stuff that she used to do. So it's not a miracle. It doesn't prove the real creator. It's a miracle to others subjectively. Remember, objective testing, we have given the condition, the 3: unnamable, universal replicability, and also cross-species consensus. Now, what is a miracle that we could stand and say, wow, hold on? Not if someone puts his hand in the pocket and brings out a snake, to me it's not. Because there's a pocket, there's a hand, there's a snake. So it is not, it's nameable. I want to tell a story here. I think around 1982, around 1982, 81, I'm not sure now. It just came in my mind as I'm sharing this message. We used to have a lot of our brothers from Mozambique who came home, and one day my brother, one of them, went to the shopping center, and I was walking towards the same road, and I saw them coming back. They had gone to do some shopping, and to one of them, I told him that you have bought yellow some superstars or some shooters, yellow ones. It was correct to the T. And he said, what? And then he then asked me, "Oh, how much money, how much did they cost?" And I was stumped. But I guessed. It was a guess. And here is the thing. You can guess correctly. But when you have a lot of probabilities, you can make a lot of guesses, correct guesses. And most of them, they say there's someone here who has had family problems. And then when they stand up, then they start to ask in a way to, you are the one who are going to give them the answers. I want to also say this. There was a point at a time when I was doing some investigations on spirituality, long time ago, I think around 1989. So I went to this African doctor, traditional doctor, and we used to have those red $10 notes. And they said, "Fagimali, I put the money in the water." And they started to talk. And the first minute, he was making a mistake. He was trying to describe our home in the village. And he said he was seeing 5 houses, and we didn't have 5 houses. We had about 3, 4, because we had a bigger one and small little ones. And everything from that time, when whatever I was saying, he was lying. I also had an occasion one night, because my father was an agronomist, very famous agronomist, and he was one who had pegged the whole area, made the village, the roads, surveyed the whole area from the plane. And so he was famous, known in the whole area, whole district, mostly, the whole Midlands. So one man passed through our home, and that night my father said, "You can't proceed," because that week we had one of our donkeys, Jessica, had lost its tail from a hyena. It was attacked by a hyena and lost its tail. So my father said, "No, there could be lions that have gone away amok here, and the hyenas." And he said, "There's one of my donkey lost its tail. Wow, wow, wow. So you sleep over here. You can go and sleep in the same. You had another house with 3 bedrooms. You can sleep there. The boys can go and sleep in the other around the house." Wow, wow, wow. Okay, all right, all right. And this person attended church Yamazion, and midnight, I heard him, he's praying. He's praying. And that time, it was 1988. I was stressed out because I just finished my GCO and I was waiting for my O levels. And that time in Zimbabwe, you would list the schools, high schools you wanted to go. There were 4 prominent high schools: St. Ignatius, Kutama, and Fletcher High School, and other Marist Brothers colleges. And I was stressed out, and my father knew I was stressed. I said, "No, you'll be all right. You'll get a place." Wow, wow, wow. And then this guy was prophesying, and he said, "Love more, love." I don't know whether he knew my name or not. And he said, "Get a newspaper." I heard him call. I said, "Oh, he's calling me." I went in, got a newspaper, and said, "Light it and burn it in front of me." I lit it and put it in front of him. And he said, "This, you are going to do very well in your O levels. You are going to pass them, and you are going to get a place at Fletcher High School." Oh, well, I said, okay, okay. I was not a Zion that time. I was going to Assemblies of God anyway. That's all right. Exactly. I passed my GCE, and I was admitted to high school. And what they used to do that time in the Sunday Mail, the main government newspaper, they used to list all the students that have managed to go to high school, to Form 5. We call it Form 5, Matric in South Africa, Form 5. And they would put their names there. And so you would have to buy that Sunday Mail. It was a thick Sunday Mail. So I bought that Sunday Mail, and I was looking for because you do know the schools you listed. So I went straight to Fletcher, and there I had got a place at Fletcher. But this person was a Zion. He was praying to Jesus, and he was praying using their signs. Was he a prophet or not? Think about that. He didn't guess. He knew, and he prophesied what came to pass. Now ask me this. Do you believe he was a prophet? No. Maybe at a certain level, he was proving that he is a spirit of a deity, of a God, made by Rome. So, what's a miracle that will say this person is really connected, is a prophet? That person must be able at times to part the Pacific Ocean for 24 hours, create a walkable path, for instance, from Los Angeles to Tokyo. And that must be verified via satellite and submarine and civilian transit. You can do, if he does that, then the spirit that is in him might be from the primordial deities. Or otherwise, if he doesn't do that, I tell you, this miracle, the one I'm talking about, has never been done and can never be done. You see, the one you are talking about, the parting of the Red Sea, has a lot of questions because it is the sea of reeds and it was never parted. And also, Yumsuf mean the blood in you. So, parting of the blood, that is what it is. I used to teach that, a lot of such stuff. So, if someone is saying, come to my church and identify what is in my pocket, then I give you $1 million. Then I am saying myself, if someone can part the Pacific Ocean for only 24 hours, creating a walkable path from Los Angeles to Tokyo, and this will be verified by satellite and submarine and civilian transit, I worship the God of that person. I will not take 1 minute. I'll bow down on my knees and worship the God of that person. You can see? You see that? So when he does that, we will then say and invite physicists that would publish peer-reviewed papers explaining how that was done, how those massive waters have been displaced, and assess the ecological damage that would have been done or no damage done. Then I am going to kneel and worship the God of that individual. Therefore, the God that Muhammad, the prophet, taught, I don't worship. The God that Christians teach, I don't worship. Because his messengers have not done such a miracle. Now, on top of that, my condition to worship the God of this person, I must be also be allowed to replicate that same miracle by that prophet. And I must be able to get my own favored dog to perform that miracle by that prophet. And then that will be a prophet for me. For someone to go and identify what is in the pocket of another individual, it's not a miracle for me. For someone to make a smartphone and bring it to me, it's not a miracle for me. It's magical, it's great, yes, but it's not proving to me that this person is connected to a noble real creator. I want to invite questions, and I'm saying, I've said a lot. I've spoken for almost 1 hour, 13 minutes, and the attendance is very good, it's exciting, I'm happy, and everyone who's here, I want to thank you and to say that's very, very great. So, this historical perspective, this test is merciless. If you agree that this is a merciless test, please write yes in the charts there. The case that I've given here is merciless. Listen, I'm not looking for abstractions here. I'm saying if there is a prophet of God, I'm being liberal. If there's a prophet of God, let him part. Okay, let me not say the Pacific is far from where I am. Let him part the Indian Ocean from Perth to Durban. From Perth to Durban, let him part that for 24 hours and allow me to walk in it. and then I worship the God of that person. Otherwise, I'm not going to worship any God. I worship the God who is subjective to my understanding. So it's very, very important. Let's go now to the other section here. The ironclad, the iron law of divine claims. Right? We want to look at the iron law of divine claims. Now, extraordinary claims demand extraordinary proof. Extraordinary claims demands extraordinary proof. So I want to go back today and repeat the three conditions for you to identify somebody as a prophet. One, they must perform an unnamable act, which they can teach somebody to replicate. And across species, other species, not only humans, other species must confirm. I gave Umbuiso as an example. And I gave an example of a miracle that would almost rise to the level of the three conditions. That is the parting of the Indian Ocean or the Pacific Ocean from one point to another for 24 hours, and for scientists to then verify, for satellite image to verify, for a record for future generations. That Prophet X was challenged by Hamaneja to be preached by Elam Dumizulu, who never worshipped any of the popular gods, but selected his own gods from his own tribes and also from Hamid. And he then ditched his gods and worshipped the God of Prophet X because he parted the ocean for 24 hours. And he then gave Elam Dumizulu the power to do that, and Elam Dumizulu repeated it. And his favorite cat performed the same thing. Gentlemen, if you agree that this is a hard test, I ask you to say yes, it is a hard test. Now, we are going to the fourth section. Extraordinary claims demand extraordinary proofs. And the faith is the refugee and the refugee camp and the hiding cave of those who make extraordinary claims. They always say you need faith. That's why these prophets cannot prophesy correctly. If a prophet's God exists, it would crave scrutiny, not fear it. A being capable of creating quantum reality would not communicate through vague dreams or emotionally unstable humans. It would not write its name in the stars, literally. No. So, by this statement, all holy books, throw them in the fire. They do not come from the unknowable real creator. They came from other gods through through fallible human beings. Put them away, throw them. All of them have contradictions. Every holy book has contradictions because it's a product of human imagination, human thought, inspired by some deities, yes, here and there. This is tough. What I'm saying is it's hard. It's not easy. It's tough. Anyway, so until someone creates life from non-life in a lab under observation, reverse entropy in a closed system, makes every human on earth simultaneously speak a new unlearnable language, not glossolalia or tongues, with a language with a syntax, their claims are intellectual nothing. Now I'm using a punch, now I'm using a hammer, a 17, 16-pound hammer. Listen, unless someone creates life from non-life in a lab under observation, reverses entropy in a closed system, makes every human being on earth simultaneously speak a new language, unlearned language, not glossolalia, but a language with a syntax, we don't have prophets. We have charlatans. All of them are charlatans. You have been deceived if you think there is a prophet or a prophetess. They are all charlatans. Their claims are just parasitic. They're just sucking your energy. Show me the unnamable or new to the now hypothesis that I have given already. This is where we are going. Kneel to the null hypothesis. That's our answer. This answer was given in another way in the book, Free from God, when we said the answer is we don't know. But we know to a certain level. Let's not make exaggerated claims. Oh, God has spoken to me by that saying the new creator. No, don't say that. The real creator has not spoken to even one person. To the primordial deities, yes. But what did the real creator say to the primordial deities? That I am unknowable. I do not have form. I do not have a name. You now come and tell me that God's name is Yahweh. Why HVH tetragrammaton? I tell you to go to hell. You are telling me fibs. I'm not dumb. I was dumb, yes. 30, 40 years ago, I was dumb. I thought Jesus is God. I then thought Allah is God. And then I thought Yahweh or Elohim is God. I was dumb then. But not now, not the last 20 years. No, no, no. Never, never, ever. It will never happen again until I leave this body and go back. It will never happen. I'll never be deceived. I'll never follow somebody who says a prophet. If a true prophet exists, their authority must transcend all human systems. The prophet should operate within the systems of humans. So these prophets that speak on PA systems invented by other people, that use lights, electric lights, that dub and copyright their stuff, put their stuff when they were CDs, their stuff was CDs. When there's UBs, now they are saving their stuff in the cloud. They didn't invent the CDs, they didn't invent the cloud or the tape recorders. What kind of God who to send his messengers to use the same system invented by our ancestors who formulated the priests, astronomers invented all that has given physics what it is today. These guys have never done an unnamable miracle test. They've never violated any principles of reality. The miracle they have done does not transcend physics or biology or logic. They are always within. It's either someone is sick, is there someone is having psychological problems, is there someone wants money. That's all. If someone wants jihad, wants to rule the whole world, to have the kingdom of God on earth. It has been tried before. So many of their miracles are not universal replicable. They say you must have faith. For you to have healing, they need you to have faith. For you to be something, they need you to believe in them. If I don't believe in Allah, if I don't believe in Muhammad, if I don't believe in Muslim, if I don't believe in Islam, I'm a kafir. My head must be chopped off. What kind of a prophet? So there's no universal replicability there. I must be able to prove myself without the Quran, without going to Mecca. I must be able to prove Allah. But Allah is a deity. I've proved that he's a Canaanite deity from El Elyon, Elohim. So a miracle is meaningless if it hinges on the unique status of the prophet. Any divine act must be repeatable by anyone. And this is the problem with Christianity. This is the problem of Christianity. Because in Mark 16, it says, those that believe, and these signs shall follow them, those that believe. They shall speak in new tongues, they shall drink this, they shall, and then it says, they shall lay hands on the sick and they shall be healed. But Christians go to hospital. If a Christian is in a car accident and smashes his bones, no one prays to him to be healed or her to be healed there and there. They go to church, they go to hospital, and they have a plaster. The prophet must provide clear, reproducible instructions, allowing anyone, regardless of intellect, of culture, of belief, of faith, to replicate that miracle. A child, an atheist, and a chimpanzee must be able to follow the instructions and achieve identical results. Here is a problem. those that are going to Makandiwa's prophetic cup clash. And if someone is able to pinpoint what is in his pocket, that person must be able to tell someone to use the same formula, to use the same tactic, to be able to identify something else in someone else's pocket. In the Bible, in the Torah, Moses did something similar to the 72 elders. But it was not Moses, it was their deity. That's why I say these spirits that these guys are using are deitic spirits, maybe Isphatic spirits from his faith. And in the Old Testament, Moses removed a portion of his spirit and was put on his, and they started to prophesy. And Joshua and Nadab and Abihu went to him and said, "Oh, the so and so are prophesying in the camp, stop them, stop them." And Moses said, I wish they could all do that because the prophets of Yahweh need to do that. They help me take the burden. But that was only a replicable, right? It ended there, never was it repeated. So it's not, didn't prove the real creator, prove the deity. And cross species in details, the validity of a prophet cannot be limited to human perception alone. If a miracle is truly divine, it must be recognized as such by all sentient beings. So tell me a prophet who has done a miracle that is believed by everybody. None. Not even Jesus. During his days, the Jews doubted his miracle. Oh, he works with Beelzebub. So any miracle should have non-human acknowledgement. Dolphins, crows, octopuses, and other intelligent species or other damn species must independently recognize and engage with the act in meaningful ways. When I said our goat that comes from the pen and it finds the pot where the wine, the beer is and drinks it, or that's awesome. That's That's African spirituality, right? No coercion or indoctrination. Cross species consensus. A bonobo or an octopus, if of its own volition, must interact with the miracle, whether by mimicking it, reacting in such a way that you and me will be able to say without someone telling us that it is repeating that same thing that that prophet did. Gentlemen, there are no prophets. We have abracadabra. Unless prophet means servant of the gods. So it is very, very important that we know the psychology of the prophets. We know certain principles, and we have identified what this prophet should do, part the ocean, and cause that to be done and repeated by others. Otherwise, they are all fraudulent actors. Now we have said a lot, and now we want to say before we go to the other half and conclude, we must conclude this in 2 hours' time, because I've realized that 4 hours people don't like them. They are just too long. Although it's good, but they are just too long. So if there are any questions, please throw them in. And if you think you didn't get it, what I want to say or what I said was very, very confusing, please also say that, so that we go together now. And we have been able to identify that the definition of a prophet, when you say the prophet is one who hears or who speaks or who interacts with God, that God is a deity. It's not the unknowable real creator who is beyond our understanding. And number two, we have said also that there are three conditions that this person who is claiming to be a prophet must be able to fulfill. by way of a miracle or miracles or proofs, and that they must do something unnamable for the first time. And we have also said it must be replicable and without conditions. And the last, other species must demonstrate it so that we can say clearly that, oh, yes. Now, so the question has been given now, but when the ancient scrolls talk about prophets, who are they talking about? Which scrolls? Right? Let's say the Torah. They are talking, because the prophet will always identify his God, Yahweh. So that's the God of the Old Testament. And Yahweh is a Canaanite deity, a Canaanite God. And this Yahweh was a small tribal God who became big because people sent prayers to him and the offerings to him, and they mentioned his name regularly. And so he has grown through that interaction of thoughts. People putting thoughts to him, sending thoughts by way of prayers to him. Yahweh is not even a primordial deity. Despite that, Genesis says the waters, no, he's not. That's the prophet. You can go to Islam, it's Allah. And Allah comes from the Canaanite deities or gods. So these prophets in these books, holy books, had a deity or a god they referenced. And that God has a name. So anything with a name is not is a nameable creator. And also anything that you can worship is not the unknowable real creator. You can't worship that one. So the other question is that I think I've answered the one about the ancient scrolls. And then there are prophets not mentioned in the Hermetica or Partemaore. No. That's what I said. If you find them, send us an email with that proof to lm@marfado.org. But the Hermetica and the other books mention prominent citizens. In the book, one of the ancient books, our book, they mention the prophet and prophecies. And these prophets did not make demands or claims. They taught generally that our lives will run this way, and that if you do this, calamity will fall on you. Like the red line prophecies that say you should not allow certain races to come down into our lands. That's a warning, wisdom warning. And the prophet, who in the sense of Nabim or Navi, like what Judaism, Christianity, and Islam has taught us. Now, we had priest teachers, priest astronomers, whom we can call scientists today. And these left evidence, proofs of what they could achieve. So they built pyramids, which are sacred, using sacred geometry. In other words, they went to the highest levels of vibrations and brought stuff on earth. They invented Afrocom, they invented pots, pans, toilets, wheels, chariots, anything you name. And they came up with basic fundamentals of algebra, trigonometry, mathematics, which others have built on. Now, here is when we say these prophets or our ancestors were smart. The things that they did can be repeated or reproduced by others without conditions. In other words, you do not need to become a mathematician to use trigonometry or to use triangles to calculate. No, all you need is that knowledge. They give you that knowledge, and off you go. Nikola Tesla used that. Count de Vaune, when he went to Hamid and they saw the Sphinx, said the people we are taking into slavery, the people we are laughing down on, is the same race that has given us our sciences, our mathematics, and even the use of speech. All right? So very clear, loud and clear. So that's a prophet to me. I would say yes. Now let me give you an example of a prophet. Imhotep. What did Imhotep do? He created and invented the medical system. The medical system that you have today came from a black mind, Imhotep. The Greeks call him Imhutepo. That was his name. So before that, people didn't know anything about the healing. Nothing. Do your research. And Imhutepo came up with the formulas, how you can give this, how you can treat using garlic, using ginger to cure this, and so forth. Wrote that down, trained other people, including the Greeks, the hypocrites. That's why they named one of them hypocrites. And they went and repeated the same thing, and the people started to have wellness. And 100 years ago, that's when they knew muffled about the oath that the doctors performed, the Hippocratic oath. If you read the Hippocratic oath, it gives deification of healing to the gods, although they write it to the Greek gods, but it was from Imhotep. Because Imhotep taught them that this healing came from the gods, inspired me, and I'm performing it because of that. That's why after he died, he was raised up to be a god, the god of healing, a prophet of healing. No abracadabra. If you want to become a medical doctor, you go to college, universal replicability, right? So we have gone in and we have looked at these matters, and we are asking for questions. And well, Cheng under Diop, Francis Cress Wilson, those were scholars of excellence. We can't, well, let's not play with them. Those were scholars, excellent scholars. We have to give them their credit and say these were excellent scholars. Let's accept that they were excellent scholars, and what they performed is wonderful and cannot be looked down. And they didn't invent anything new. They reviewed what was already known, right? So our unforgiving criteria for prophetic legitimacy destroys a lot, and unfortunately, it even destroys our own activities, and push them to that they came from the highest vibrational levels possible within the waters of union. Now, let's now use that standard and look at what has happened in the last maybe 1,000 or so years. And if you have questions, please throw them in. I've got about 20 minutes to go. I'll answer those questions. We look at failed prophecies. And these failed prophecies expose the fraudulent activities of these people. And when they expose the fraudulent activities of these people, they also make us suspect their God. Any prophet that has failed has also condemned his or her God. William Miller, a 19th century Baptist preacher, predicted the second coming of Jesus, that it would occur between March 21, 1843, and October 22, 1844. Based on his interpretation of biblical prophecies, specifically Daniel 8, tens of thousands of his followers, who were known as Millerites, sold their possessions, sold their cars. Others annulled their marriages. Others continued to wait until the end. Nothing happened. And it is known as the Great Disappointment. Here is my question. If you're a Seventh-day Adventist, if you're an Adventist today, why are you still an Adventist when the founder of your religion or denomination failed dismally like this? Are you thinking correctly? Now, so let's bring our standards. Did William Miller perform a miracle that is unnamable? No. Therefore, he's a prophet of a deity, not a true prophet. So, why does William Miller's event and failure stands out prominently? It had mass followership, tens of thousands of adherents across the United States. It had a specific date, and because of that, it left no room for reinterpretation. The legacy directly spawned new movements like the Seventh-day Adventists, which redefined prophecy, Christ movement into a heavenly sanctuary. That's not a prophecy. That's total lies. It's projectics. I used to follow this. It's amazing how I used to believe that. It had a cultural impact, cemented the term great disappointment in religious studies as a case study in failed prophecies. So William Miller was not a prophet. Ellen G. White was not a prophetess. Take my words. You are following somebody, or you are following somebody who is not anywhere near the standard of being a prophet or a prophet. There are many like that. Recently, around 2011, there was a Harold Camping. He predicted that Jesus and the rapture would occur May 21, 2011, following the Earth's destruction on October 21. Nothing happened. Camping later admitted error, but blamed spiritual judgment. Now, he's a false prophet. Once you tell a lie, extraordinary claims demand extraordinary proofs. Small little speck of a lie, gone to hell with me, don't follow you, throw you in the bin. I could use other words here, but for the sake of community, I won't use that. I won't use those words. So Camping previously failed with the 1994 prediction, is failing continuously. Why do you still follow these people? Are you thinking right? How Lindsay, 1980s apocalypse, predicted that the world will come to an end and a nuclear war will occur. Jesus never came. Lindsay was a smart businessman. He wrote books and they sold over 35 million copies. Evangelical eschatology. And despite these failures and inaccuracies, people buy that. People love that. I don't know what is in us that we love such people. I don't know. The third one is the Maya 2012 end of the world date. I also fell victim into that. It was predicted that December 21, 2012, there would be a global catastrophe and the whole earth would change. And there will be a global turn and the earth will turn over north to south and so forth. I used to teach that. The day came, it passed, no event. Then scholars clarified their mistake that they had used the Mayan long count calendar ending December 21, and that was a mistake. I fell victim to that. But thank the gods, they were with me, and I'm still here, clear-minded as ever. Then the Jehovah's Witness, these ones, their God is a false God. The Mayan God is a false God. They predicted the Watchtower Society taught just Jesus' invisible return in 1914, followed by Armageddon and Paradise on Earth in 1925. Nothing happened. The group later reinterpreted 1914 as the start of Christ's invisible reign, same as the judgment stuff that we taught in the Seventh-day Adventist. This is notable because these dates have been repeated 1874, 1914, 1975, and it should lead to disillusionment. These are all false prophets, the Watchtower. Another false prophet is Nostradamus. He made predictions, a lot of predictions. And the 16th century seers quatrains are retroactively linked to events like World War I, 9/11, and COVID-19. His prophecies are so ambiguous, they are fulfilled post hoc. They are always fulfilled after. Why? Because he wrote generalities. Nostradamus remains a natural, a cultural icon despite zero confirmed predictions, proving humanity's craving for mystical certainty. Shame. Interesting. Now, when other prophecies flopped, Miller's one stands out clear because it brought about great disappointment. Now, there's another one. This is where I used to go also. The Worldwide Church of God, founded by Herbert W. Armstrong, 1933. And in 1933, he said the rapture would occur in 1936. Nothing happened. And Herbert Armstrong said in 1972, the world will end. Nothing came to an end. He revised and said 1975 came, but nothing happened. He died in 1986 without ever seeing his hope and his beliefs. Wow. It's very interesting. Let me explain a little bit about December 21, 2012, marked by the end of the first great cycle of the Maya long count calendar. These Mayas were melanin dominant human beings. Many misinterpreted this to mean an absolute end to the calendar, which tracked the time continuously from a date 5125 years earlier, and doomsday predictions emerged. End of the world scenarios, including the Earth colliding with Nibiru, giant solar flares, a planetary alignment that would cause massive tidal catastrophes, and the realignment of Earth's axis. Preparations by a lot of people occurred for the end of the world survivors kits. Noah's Ark was built. China made a lot of money making kits for people to survive that catastrophe. Nothing happened. So these are all false prophets. Failed prophecies persist because they exploit cognitive biases and the confirmation bias and the patterns that we seek occurring in events and existential anxiety that the world is coming to an end. But remember, the greatest of all prophecies is that one day you will die, and one day I will die. That's the only true prophecy. But you don't know the date, and you don't know the hour, and don't know where. All you need to do is to make your life now so critically open and so powerful. You should experience out of body existence. You must never be dominated by any spirit. You must dominate your own space. So when we look at the divine claims, let's quickly go through 10 unforgiving challenges that I'm throwing to the prophets, so-called prophets. Entropy reversal. Now, anyone who claims to be a prophet must reverse the thermodynamic arrow of time for an entire city or a large system without external energy input. Why? Because that will violate the second law of thermodynamics. Entropy must decrease universally, not just locally. So entropy must decrease universally, not only locally. So we are saying, and I'm saying, this prophet must do it in my home. Then I worship the God of that prophet. I'll ditch Atem and I'll ditch Amen and worship that God of that person who has reverse entropy. I know it's impossible. No one will be able to do that. Now, when the prophet does that, if any prophet can do that, it will mean that all broken objects will repair themselves. All dead organisms will revive. And the heart flows backwards simultaneously and irreversibly. Gentlemen, these are hard tests for anyone to claim to be a prophet. You go to Makandiwa and give him this challenge and say, Makandiwa, reverse thermodynamic out of time now. They say, Joshua did that. And Joshua, he did it in a small city. But The people that were dead never came back. People of Ai that he killed never came alive. In fact, he was continually killing. So it has nothing to do with entropy. What it's just a story, to be honest and to be fair. That's challenge number one, entropy reversal. Challenge number two, celestial forge. This one who is claiming to be a prophet must create a new functional star in an observed region in the sky and name it whatever name. Astrophysicists and those that study the stars must be able to identify it. And they say, there is a star that just appeared. And this prophet is with me in my home, right? And he does that for 24 hours. And then we hear on the news that there is a star different from all stars that just appeared in Sydney, Australia. Then I know, whoa, that prophet is done it. Nobody can do that. Nobody. Then the third one is the resurrection of the extinction. So he must revive prehistoric species like the T-Rex from fossilized remains, must fully do that in front of everybody, not small abracadabra way, because that will violate the laws of, yeah. Then paradox of time. That prophet must be able to erase the moon and remove it. And every human being on earth must say, for this month there is no moon, because Prophet X said he will remove the moon from the skies. If we succeed in doing that, I will not worship the God of that prophet, but I'll ask him to remove the sun again. And if he removes the sun for even for 24 hours, I'll worship the God of that prophet. When he must be able to change the unbound constants, our ancestors discovered the pi and discovered the laws of geometry, discovered all these laws. This prophet must change the value of mathematical constants like pi within a localized area, altering geometry. I'm giving challenges that he cannot, that no one can do here. I think I'm wasting time. Let me rush through this and leave. And then there's the 54th, the conservation defiance. There's so much. I've got a PDF. If you want this PDF with this section that I'm dealing with here, just write to us at lm2mizulu at marfado.com and you get this PDF. You can go through it. There's a lot of stuff here. Why these challenges? Because one, each act cannot be explained by current or future human science. So the prophet comes with his models that transcend those. And this cannot be replicated by technology. So I want him to do something that technology cannot replicate, or illusion, or chance, or probability. So he's doing something that can never be replicated. There's no technology that can part the Indian Ocean from Perth to Durban. There's nothing. So I will know that this prophet is a great man, right? Or a great prophet is a great woman. Simple challenges, because I've given very technical challenges. Now I want to give him a simple challenge. Remember, we are testing this prophet mercilessly, and they've all failed. They are no longer, we are now just going through. Yeah. No, I'm not joking. What these are tests. Nobody can replicate my sister. I'm not joking. This is serious. Maybe clarify your tests are for a. What are you saying? What are you saying about my testing? Let me read that. He's saying, what is the difference between Atema and the Nyunyu? Okay. Let me answer. Atema came out of Nyunyu. Nyunyu is the all potential with all possibilities or waters of Nyunyu. They are the ones that are just below the chasm. If you pass the waters of Nyunyu, you go to the chasm. You pass the chasm, you are with the unknowable real creator. So all the gods came out of the waters of Nyunyu. So if you really want to worship something almighty, you can worship the waters of New. You have to find your own way how to do it. And then you say, but things did change drastically in 2021. But yeah, COVID came and so forth. So this is what we are saying in retrospective. When you look at them, when you look back, it's no longer 2012. Right? Yeah, right. Things can change. Why? Because human consciousness is continuously evolving, whether for the good or for the bad. All right. So he said 1914 drastic changes led to the Treaty of Versailles. Oh, well, yeah, yes. But the interpretation now is that Jesus started his reign in heaven. So if Jesus can rule like that, causing people to fight, he's a deity. He's a war deity, right? No, 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 no. Yes, Ambuya Roots, you say my tests are for a God, not a prophet. Correct. Because this God identifies a prophet and works with that prophetess. And the person who is walking on the earth says he's a prophet, so and so. And I'm saying, I want to give him this test. So he goes to his God and says, there is somebody who says, can you part the Indian Ocean from Perth to Durban? And the three conditions comes handy. One, an unnamable act. Two, replicability. Three, cross-species confirmation or consensus. So if one of those conditions could not be met, then this deity is not a primordial deity, right? That's my answer. I'm not joking. This deity is not a primordial deity. The deities give a spirit, yes, fair and fine. But it's the abracadabra spirit doing small little miracles, stretching somebody's hand. And when you stretch somebody's hand, you go to hospital when you are sick. So what's the story? What's the point? And you are using a microphone invented by people that do physics. I mean, gentlemen, let's be honest, let's be clear, and let's be forthright with our discussion. Right? So I'm saying I want to give simple tests, the other simpler ones. All right? And this simple test is unbend the bush. It's a simple challenge. Make a bend down forest regrow instantly. Trees, leaves, animals, as if the fire never happened. Here in Australia, here is a kangaroo island. A kangaroo island is a very big island with lots of trees. A fire destroyed the whole island. And I'm saying I will take this prophet and say, instantaneously, may your God regrow this. To violate the natural laws of growth, it can't be done. So, like Moses burning bush, that wasn't consumed. It must be reversed. Moses couldn't reverse it, right? So, these are simple tests. Star in a jar. So, a simple challenge is this way. I want this prophet to create a new star and in the sky, visible to everybody and everyone on earth, and then take that star and put it in a bottle. Right? If a prophet can do that, then the God of that prophet, I worship. I will not even worship you. I will worship the God of that prophet. But it can't be done, is it? Yes, very true. Simple test. Another simple test is bring back a dinosaur alive, breathing, and harmless from a fossil bone. All right? Simple challenge. Make everyone forget a famous event like 9/11 while leaving physical proof like Rapu unchanged. That's altering collective memory, which is what is happening with our melanin dominant brothers, because we have forgotten that we are fighting gods, not these human beings. Now, this is where it is very interesting, because there's a young fella, an actor, who has come up and said 1 + 1 = 3. 1 times 1 should be something else. 1 times 0 should be 1, something like that. So it's a simple challenge. Make 1 + 1 = 3 in real life, not theoretical. So merge 2 apples into 3. Merge 2 apples into 3. Right? of the same size. So it can't be done. Another challenge, a simple challenge, make the entire ocean float upwards like a cloud, then return safely down. So, or a river. So go to the Zambezi and make the Victoria Falls go up so it will be seen in the heavens. Or move a mountain. We don't have prophets. Yeah. No. And this last one, I want to give here. Make a stone talk. Now, in Mutoko, Neorega made a stone talk. There's a place where you can go and verify that. But that's not replicable anywhere else. And that's not cross species. Oh, cross species is there in Mutoko at that place, yeah. Because you can hear chickens, goats, cows moving inside that. It's another parallel world anyway. There's more stuff there. I might end up being diverted here. But if you read my book, Free from God, I've got a section that deals with that. Now, until someone creates life from non-life under laboratory observations, reverses entropy in a closed system, or make every human being on Earth smart, speak a new language, structured language with no known linguistic roots, then, gentlemen, we are wasting time. We have no prophets. Now, here is what you need to do personally. You need to figure out how to demonstrate why most modern prophets are considered false using your own methods. You can use some of the methods that I've elaborated here, but basically you have to use your own methods. If you want more information, you can do that with me. Now, here is another question. It said, those who blast lightning. I think I once repeated this. Today I'm fond of telling stories. When I was growing up in my village in Gokwe, this is a true story. We used to have one of our relatives. For the sake of those that will verify this story, I'll use his nickname. It's popular. He was called 17. So he liked me so much. He loved me. He was old and blind. He's the only person that I've heard who bewitched a European in Shurugwi. They say here the challenge with a European. And he did something. He told this European, he was the boss in the mine there, chrome mine. And they had an argument with this European boss. And he said in public, in front of everybody, that tonight you do A, B, C, D, because you don't do that to me, 17. And this European guy said, these had used their words. And the following morning, and that night, he was hospitalized. Because a boil, this 17 told him that a big boil bigger than a watermelon is going to grow on you before midnight. And if you want that boil to disappear, you have to come to me and apologize. And he said, this and that, and went away. And at the night, when he went to bed, he started to hear vibration behind this, where he was told it will grow. He was told it will grow on a certain place. I can't mention that place here. I'm answering about lightning. I'm coming to that point. They called an ambulance and took him to Gweru Hospital. And in Gweru, they said, this boil, we can't deal with it. It's elephantiac. You might have to go to Harare. And you might not survive your trip to Harare. Those times, I think there were no aeroplanes and stuff like that. And immediately, he remembered this word. And he said to the doctors, please go to Shurugwi and go to see such a person and bring him here. And so, what do you mean? He said, bring that person here. I want to go with him to Harare. And they went and fetched that man. And that man said, no, I'm not going. I'm not going anywhere. Don't waste your time. Go back to him and tell him to apologize in front of everybody that he is sorry. And I want some doctors there. When I go there, I want that to be done. And they drove back. and said, "Oh, that man refused, but he said you should apologize in front of all of us." And that man said, "Oh, okay, yeah." He said, and he mentioned his name and said, "I apologize for everything." And that boy immediately became less and less and disappeared. This is a true story. And this 17 liked me so much. Now I'm coming to my story. And he always sent me for Iraq, go fetch this for me. He was partially blind and he would describe trees and I would go dig some roots. He would smell it and say, "Yeah, that's correct." And one day he called me. It was during a winter and we were relaxing at home. And he said, "I want you to look, Dumizulu, I want you to look for such a root for me. And after that, you go grab this." He sent me three things. But I wanted a hoe to go and dig up the roots. So I went and the hoes were all locked up. And I went to my mother and said, I need a hoe. And he said, "What do you want it for?" I said, "I want to go and dig some roots." And he said, "What roots?" And I explained to her and said, "You know what he's doing with you?" I said, "No." And she said, "That's what he going to use for lightning for the next season." And he said he wants to teach you to he wants to teach you something. I said, "Yes." He said, "I don't want you to ever do any chores for him. Don't ever do that." And unfortunately, I didn't learn the skill to make lightning. Now, here is the thing. A few years before that, one of my cousins, his daughter, was poisoned during Christmas. They gave her Coca-Cola, which was poisoned, and she drank it. And before New Year, she passed on. And during the burial, 17 stood up and said, "I know somebody poisoned my daughter. I am giving you 24 hours to apologize. If you don't apologize, don't be sorry." Okay. That night, there was a small cloud, and the three bolts of lightning smashed that man's home. And that man survived. And the village chief gathered everybody and said, "No, 17, I don't want this." And he said, "I'm repeating this in front of you. If that guy does not apologize tonight, tomorrow we'll have another funeral now. We'll have a funeral." And it is said secretly they went and apologized. And the lightning was not sent. So that's so where the 17 didn't worship God. He worshiped his ancestors. I know that. Because when I was a Pentecostal, I tried to convert him and I prayed for him, but he never got it. He was always an ancestral person. So that answers Mbia roots about men. They are connected with their ancestors and the gods. So we have gone over 2 hours. I want to conclude now. Before I conclude, I want to go through a number of events. You must also understand that even one failed prophecy by even a prophet who was succeeding all along proves that his God is a deity. And also the other thing is that a prophet who just prophesy and have not been able to produce something that benefits people unconditionally is just abracadabra. And we have prophets like Joseph Smith of Mormons claimed to have divine golden plates, but have not solved any problems on earth other than them gathering within the systems that are here on earth, money, properties, and so forth. So thank you very much. This has been another talk. I wish a lot of people could have been with us, but it's enough. Everyone who was here, I respect you and have a great, blessed day. And the current shenanigans are just shenanigans. I want to say this. Don't challenge these people after hearing this. Don't go to them and say, you're a false. No. Unless you have power yourself and you are connected to the gods. Remember, I said, may the gods appear. If the gods that appeared to you have appeared to you even once, that's enough power. They won't have anything against you. And you must also know about the divine spark. And you must also know about these shenanigans that they work with gods. And these gods sometimes are not nice gods, they are evil deities, but they don't inspire them to do good. So remember all that. So I don't know if you have any questions before I conclude. I want to conclude. I think I will finish 2:20. I should finish. And I'm looking at the questions. Yeah. That's good. That's my life. That's my life. Belarus. How are you doing? Haven't seen you for a while. I hope you're doing very fine. And many others. Thank you very much. We got a lot of stuff going. Before I conclude, I've got a message for a lot of us here. If there are other people that registered for Bantu foundations and paid their subscriptions and everything stalled, it's our fault. We want to apologize for that. There is an issue, a technical issue, and we have resolved that. It's okay now. So if you have registered for Bantu foundations and you paid your subscriptions, we are already rolling out now and full throttle on. We resolved a few technical issues. So we now have a WhatsApp group which you must join and which we can invite you to, because we are going live. We are no longer doing the old-fashioned type, what we use. We give you a lesson and we let you alone. Now we have a live WhatsApp group. So if you have registered and you paid your subscription, even for 1 month, please send your email and notice to join to lmdumizulu@marifado.org, or by any means necessary, leave your message even in the comment section here. I will then send your name to the facilitator, the registrar prince, and he will discuss with you what we need to do, because we are preparing. The students that are enrolling into Band Foundations now are going to be the first pioneers in our mysteries university stuff that we will start maybe in 4-5 years time, practical stuff. And many of them will give them opportunities to teach and to carry our Marifado brand to as many places as possible and distribute stuff for us. We are thinking of going to do that. And now here is a question here. It says, and how many legit Mondoros should they be? Okay. Here's the thing. When we speak of the gods, there are only two levels of the gods. At the moment, our understanding is that there are two levels. They are the primordial gods or the primordial deities. These primordial deities, they tell us they self-generated themselves or self-created themselves. So the question, who created God, is that God created himself. And then if the question goes back and back, you can also find the answer easily. And these primordial gods created other gods. For example, Osiris or Ausari is not a primordial god. It was created by the primordial gods. How many are there? We don't know the numbers. We only know some of them. But in my book, Free from God, I gave a dictionary of all the gods found all over the world, everywhere. European, American, Yoruba, everywhere. I gave the name. And for us melanin dominant human beings, specifically who are tied to Hamitic Hebrew committee, we have got about 2,000 gods there. So if you get this book, Free from God, and you go to the dictionary, you will find the gods that you want. And you read the qualities and say, I want to work with this one. I want to work with that one. I want to work with that one. And you can invoke them. It's up to you. So that's the thing. So they are legit. They will come to you. They will confirm themselves. So there's a question here. Can I pay in Naira? Is there an account I can do that? I do not have a means to pay in dollars. Yeah. Send me your email. And send an email. Sorry, send an email to lmdumizulu@marifado.org. And if you are in Nigeria, the registrar is based in Abuja. I think he might be in Port Harcourt now, but he will be back in Abuja shortly, and he will respond to you easy, fair, and fine. In conclusion, therefore, what can you now do? Critical thinking. Just engage in critical thinking, because critical thinking terrifies all these people. That's all. And ask questions. That's all we can say here, so that you won't be cheated. Don't believe in every miracle. Believe in a miracle that passes the three criterion, the three standards that we have given here. These are, to repeat, one, unnamable miracle act. It must never have a name. I think Bia Roots, if you are there, you can see there is your totem there. I will not put it again because monozovaira and I'm mining monovaira. Anyway, Leon Phoenix, no, don't worry about that. Contact Prince, he will fix that for you. And no, so let me repeat. I said 20 minutes, I've got 5 minutes to go. Please, if you've got any questions, one, they must be able to do something that can never be named or repeated. So I named parting of the Atlantic Ocean and for 24 hours, but it can't be done, right? So it's a nameable act. Number two, replicability. The prophet must teach that miracle to be performed. Three, cross species by someone else or something else, or a dog or a monkey or a clever dolphin. So these are the three conditions. And the last primary mantra you can go away with today is that extraordinary claims require extraordinary proofs. So you say you know God, part the Indian Ocean. If you can't, you know a deity. So you'd rather say, I know a deity. Now, this is Limpa Mingi Congo says, one last question. How do we find legitimacy in current Mondoros in Zimbabwe? There are very few. I have to be honest. There are very few. Let me answer that. There was a, where I came from, there was a Mondoro. These Mondoros will not perform unnamable acts. If they do perform an unnamable act, I have a problem. My thesis is a problem, but they will never, never, never perform an unnamable act. Why? Because every human being dies. So the only unnamable act this Mondoro can perform is not to die. But the Mondoro is a dead human being who once walked on the earth. All right? So legitimacy now in that Mondoro is one, they must subscribe to a higher makombre, primordial deities, and they must not demand payment after service. If they do something for you, they must not say it's $20. That one is a charlatan. Whoever demands payment is no matter who, as long as they the service that I've done for you is $100, is a charlatan. It's not a proper legit Mondoro. A proper legit Mondoro will never demand payment. Here is the key. Because the spirit in that Mondoro, that human being, should also inspire you without fear to appreciate what has been done to you and for you. And on your own volition, you feel obligated to give them something. They should not do that indirectly by subtlety or by subconscious means or by any tactics. It must come from you that I feel, no, let me pay this. Here is an example. It might not work. Much of the information that we share as Marfado Family Network, we don't put a price. All right? It's free. But when you go in and experiment with it and they try to do something, then you get a reward. That's inevitable. All right? So that's what we can say clearly. All right, let me say this. Anywhere where you are, if you're a melanin dominant person and you want to identify a true Mondoro, in other words, a prophet, because we said a prophet is any of us that is a spirit of a god or a deity. They must not charge you even a cent. Nothing. Not even a cent. There are some that will say, okay, I want money for fuel to drive to that a place that is out of line, is limited, is no longer, it doesn't have the spirit. he must or she must have a spirit that when you ask help, you will also be given the means to sustain that process. So, for instance, if this Mondoro says, okay, you need this and this and this to solve this ABC problem, that's it. It's for free. And then you go, you buy ABCD and you solve your problem. You must, in your own head, in your own spirit, say, I know I want to thank that man. Here's the question: who are you thanking? You are not thanking the spirit, you are thanking the vehicle. Why? Because this person who is possessed with this spirit needs to eat, needs to do ABCD, and spend time sitting down doing stuff for you. So you are doing them a favor. You are not actually paying them, but you are doing them a favor. So it's clear now that you will not find any legit Mondoro. Yes, because they are all charlatans. If these Mondoros were powerful, we would never be colonized. The Chinese would never be playing ding dong with us. That's why my father is saying, let's call the gods come up again. The reason, if the Mondoros were there, we would never be teaching that the unknowable creator is unknowable. They will be the ones teaching that, yet they don't teach that. They don't even teach our own culture. They are wearing shoes, European shoes, and drinking Coca-Cola. They have not invented even a smartphone. So why do you expect and think we will have these Mondoros? Listen, I'm doing a video. Next, when you watch my channel, I'm doing a video about how this has been hijacked. It's a powerful video. It will shock us, all of us. Right? So what we have as spiritual leaders or nganga or shamans are people with very little bit of spirit in them, from some ancestor maybe trying to work with us, but we need revival. That's why Marifado is there, Marifado Family Network. We need revival. When it happens, like the Haitian revival, there is nothing that will stop it. But we got a lot of sellouts. We must be weeded out first. So all of us need to do Maati, as where Ruth is saying, Ubuntu Unu. So you come to me for help, I should be able to help you without charging. Now, when they charge, they say it's $100. Who invented the $100? Rockefeller. So which spirit is being promoted? The halakha that Rockefeller, Rothschild invoked to have the fiat currency as a goldsmith. Isn't that straightforward? So when you go to this Mondoro and ask that you want to buy a house, you buy a house, and what do you get? Title deeds. And what do we call that house? Real estate. Who is real estate? It's royal estate. It's British. So we are in trouble. Big trouble. Anyway, I think I may end up going back. So these tests are very legit, and these tests are massive. So why we have brought these tests, the three of them in that manner, unnamable, replicability, as well as cross-species consensus. We want to encourage, if you are hearing my message, I want to encourage everybody that we need to work hard to use our medulla oblongata, our imagination, our visionary powers to craft in our personal lives, to have the power to create the environment where these miracles will start to come out of our own people to liberate us from spiritual oppression, spiritual colonization, spiritual enslavement that we have all faced and that we are all facing. That is the reason we want to resurrect someone, a lot of us, to have this understanding so we can start to spread the truth, to spread the message, to work with the divinities, to say, I am willing to walk the extra mile to revive mind race. We are looking for people that are not colonized by borders, that are not colonized by political parties, that are not colonized by continents and say, I'm from Africa, I'm from the motherland. Motherland what? Motherland what? When even your continent refuses Haiti when it wants to become a member. So we need them. We need these signs. If you get these signs, write it down, memorize it, use it to reverse the Chinese thing, the gains, to remove the sellout politicians, to remove the evil ones out of us. This is what we need. Yes, yes, Leon Phoenix, we were compromised. We are coming out of the dungeon, we are coming out of the prisons. Remember this, when Shatter or Set, the god Set, tricked Ausari to go in the coffin and they nailed the coffin and threw it in the ocean. That's what has happened to us. We want to break that coffin in which we reside. We want to come out of the and then the waters, represent the waters of union, come out of the waters with the power and energy. Because when Ausari came out of that, is they say the smell, his aroma filled the whole earth. And now when you see a dead corpse, it smells, it's bad. But when Ausari came out, the smell filled the whole earth with a new aroma and a new life. That's the spirit Marfado is fighting for. Thank you. Thank you. As I've said, those that have already enrolled in Bantu Foundations, I'm not saying those that did Bantu Foundations long ago. You don't need to enroll. These are new people. Please send us an email if you want any help. Prince is there. He's waiting for your email. And we are going forward. Backward never. So I'll have another 4 minutes and we'll say goodbye. Now, here are the 3 conditions for a prophet. 1, unnamable act that has no name, like parting the Indian Ocean from Perth to Durban, or from Los Angeles to Tokyo, or raise all the waters of the oceans up into the sky for everybody to see and bring them down for everybody seeing. And it must be reported by people that don't know it was happening. Or they might take away the moon for a month and they claim that I'm taking the moon away. And astronomers, astrophysicists would never be able to identify it. And then you say, on the such a day, I'm putting it back. And then that prophet, to me, I'll throw away Ausari, I'll throw away Atema, I'll throw away Amen, I'll throw away Anobisa, I'll throw away waters of union and go to that prophet. Why am I saying this? Because I know it's impossible. Nothing like that will happen. Number 2, that's a test for a prophet. They must then teach somebody to replicate an unnamable act, not that which they have done. Then they might teach me to do another unnamable act, not the one they have done. And after that, together, they must be able to have other species replicate that. So if, for instance, they parted the ocean from the Atlantic from Los Angeles, let me say from Miami to Cuba, let me just say a short one. They must also teach me to do something like that. Then I can part Perth to Tuba in Durban, and then I must be able to teach my kid to do that. That cannot be done. So those are the tests. So thank you very much. This is Hamaneja Topi Priest Rabbi Elem Jaganja saying we can revive a lot of stuff within our lives because each and everyone who is viewing this video, who has heard me speak for the last 2.5 hours, is a prophet and a prophetess in potential. Better than Makandiwa, better than Oral Roberts, better than Joan Marange, better than anybody else. Because you know the unnamable act, universal replicability, and across the species attributes. Not these small art bragadabra jobs. Thank you. Amen. 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 Ra.